Good evening, friends. Pull your chairs closer. Warm your hands by the fire. Tonight, I'm going to tell you a story. A story about a man who calls himself a leader, a man who claims to fight corruption, but somehow couldn't fight his way out of a 150,000 Rand credit card bill. Yes, this is the tale of John Steenhuisen, minister, DA heavyweight, defender of the Constitution, and apparently a man who swipes a card like it's sponsored by the Reserve Bank. But tonight, we won't whisper. Tonight, we ask the uncomfortable questions, the questions he hopes you won't ask. So sit back, because this story burns. Picture it, a senior cabinet minister earning millions, suddenly hit with a default judgment for 150,000 Rand. Now, South Africa. Let me ask you something straight from the heart. Have you ever accidentally forgotten to pay 150,000 Rand? Because I surely haven't. Most of us feel guilty forgetting to return a Tupperware. Some of us still lose sleep over a 49.99 Rand debit order we didn't budget for. But this man, John Steenhuisen, he forgets debts that look like home deposits, business loans, dowry money, and startup capital all rolled into one. Now, sit a little closer to the fire, because this story gets stranger the longer you stare at it. You see, ordinary people don't just let 150,000 Rand float off into space like a balloon at a children's party. Ordinary people worry about 150 Rand electricity vouchers. Ordinary people ask for extensions on 300 Rand school fees. Ordinary people take pictures of petrol prices because they're traumatized. But a man earning over 2 million Rand a year, a man who tells the whole country how to run its finances, a man who lectures municipalities about responsible spending, he somehow forgets a debt the size of someone's entire annual salary? Tell me, friends, does that make sense to you? Now, let's go deeper. Why does a man with cabinet-level income, a man who eats in places where water comes in glass bottles and chairs have names, fall behind like this? Ask yourself, is he reckless with money? The kind of person who taps a card like it's a drum set? Is he careless? The type who loses receipts and then loses the entire debt? Or is he hiding something? Something about this debt he never wanted the world to see? Because I'll tell you this, people don't forget 150,000 Rand. People avoid 150,000 Rand. People pray over 150,000 Rand. But forget? No, not unless that 150,000 Rand was tied to something inconvenient, something revealing, something embarrassing. Maybe the question, 10. How did he forget to pay it? Maybe the real question is, why was he so desperate not to pay it? Think about that. And now, South Africa, good evening, friends. Pull your chairs closer, warm your hands by the fire. Tonight, I'm going to tell you a story. A story about a man who calls himself a leader, a man who claims to fight corruption, but somehow couldn't fight his way out of a 150,000 Rand credit card bill. Yes, this is the tale of John Steenhuisen, minister, DA heavyweight, defender of the Constitution, and apparently a man who swipes a card like it's sponsored by the Reserve Bank. But tonight, we won't whisper. Tonight, we ask the uncomfortable questions, the questions he hopes you won't ask. So sit back, because this story burns. I turn it to you. Speak your truth around this digital campfire. Why would a man making 2 million Rand a year default on 150,000 Rand? What kind of story lies behind debts that large? What do you think he's running from? Let me know in the comments. Maybe you see something we don't. And while you're here, like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next chapter in this saga of mystery, money, and ministerial mathematics. Because trust me, this story isn't over. Let's talk lifestyle. John Steenhuisen has always lived, well, loudly. Designer suits, high-end restaurants, expensive trips, the image of a man enjoying the sweet life of politics. But here's the question. Is this lifestyle funded by salary or by swiping? And more importantly, what else does someone like this owe? What other unpaid bills are hiding in the shadows? Because when a man defaults on one card, there's usually more beneath the surface. Is he financially unstable, or is he hiding a spending pattern that could compromise his judgment as a minister? A minister with debt is a minister under pressure. A minister under pressure is a minister open to influence. You see the problem? Now let me tell you something terrifying. In government security vetting, bad credit equals major risk. Why? Because debt makes you vulnerable. You can be bribed. You can be manipulated. You can be pressured. So let me ask you, how does a man with 150,000 rand in unpaid debt get full access to cabinet documents? How does a man with a default judgment get clearance for national secrets? What happens when a foreign businessman notices a minister who's under pressure? And why didn't anyone flag him earlier? South Africa, comment below. Should someone with a public default judgment sit in cabinet? Let's talk politics. Inside the DA, knives are always sharp. Leadership battles, internal factions, turf wars. And John, he's walking into the 2026 DA leadership race with a credit card grenade strapped to his chest. His rivals are watching, waiting, sharpening their smiles. A DA leader with financial scandals, this is Christmas for them. So ask yourself, is that why John downplayed it? Is he scared of being replaced? Is he fighting for political survival? Or is the debt simply a symptom of a bigger, personal chaos? Now, here's something most people aren't thinking about. You see, John Steenhuisen isn't just some guy with a title. He's not pushing paper. He's not operating a photocopy machine. He is the Minister of Agriculture, the man responsible for massive decisions that affect what we eat, what we import, what we export, and how billions of rands move across borders. He sits at tables with global trade giants, international food corporations, export councils, billion-rand agricultural investors, multinational negotiators who do not play games. These are not friendly, let's share a cappuccino meetings. These are Shark Tank environments, high pressure, high stakes, and very big money floating in every room. So now, picture this clearly. A man who is supposed to negotiate billion-rand deals. A man expected to stay firm against global pressure. A man who must represent South Africa with strength and integrity is walking around with a default judgment for 150,000 rand. A man drowning in private debt. A man who failed to pay what many South Africans earn in a year. A man who couldn't settle a bill the size of a small tractor. Now, I ask you, and think carefully, would you trust a financially unstable person to negotiate on behalf of an entire country? Because a man in financial distress is a man in a compromised position. A man in debt is a man who can be influenced. A man struggling financially is a man who can be pressured. A man with money troubles behind the scenes is a man who might say yes when he should say no. Let's go even deeper. In global agriculture, there are forces that would love a weak negotiator. Big seed companies, foreign land grab investors, GMO giants, import lobbies, export monopolies, corporate agriculture empires. They thrive when a minister is distracted. They feast when a minister is desperate. And they celebrate when a minister's personal finances are in chaos. Now ask yourself, what happens when someone with a default judgment walks into a negotiation with people who have more money than some countries? Do you think those sharks cannot smell weakness? Do you think they cannot sense desperation? Do you think billion-dollar players don't know exactly who has financial problems? Oh, they know. Better than newspapers. Better than the public. Better than his own department. These people conduct background checks so deep they can tell you what color socks you wore in grade 9. So now I ask you again, would you trust him to negotiate fairly? Would you trust him to stand firm in billion-rand deals? Would you trust him to say no to powerful interests when he couldn't even say no to debt collectors? If he can't manage 150,000 rand, how does he manage 150 billion rand in agricultural value chains? If his own finances are shaky, How steady is his hand when signing national agreements? If he's vulnerable privately, how safe are we publicly? Tell me, South Africa, do you feel comfortable? Do you feel protected? Do you feel represented? Or do you feel like someone else, someone richer, someone more powerful, might be whispering in his ear? Let me know what you think in the comments. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, because this story is only getting started. One debt doesn't shock me, but patterns do. Remember, this isn't the first time his spending habits raised eyebrows. Party insiders have complained before. Accountants allegedly questioned him before. Internal memos whispered about him before. So the question becomes, is this a one-time mistake, or is this a long-running behavior problem? Is he financially reckless by nature, or is he hiding something bigger, something connected to that spending? You've seen Steenhuisen in Parliament. Strong voice, bold speeches, talking about accountability, transparency, responsibility. But behind that microphone is a man who couldn't even keep up with his personal payments. So here's the uncomfortable truth. What else in his life is unpaid? What else is unsettled? What else is collapsing behind the curtain? Is the responsible leader image just branding? Is the ministerial suit just costume? And something very interesting happened. After the debt became public, John Steenhuisen went quiet. No press conference, no transparency, no spreadsheets, no detailed explanation. Just, my personal finances are irrelevant. Irrelevant? For a cabinet minister who controls national agriculture, who holds high-level security clearance. South Africa, what do you think? Is this the behavior of a transparent leader? Not about the debt, but about the man. Is John Steenhuisen irresponsible? Or is he compromised? Is this a simple financial blunder, or a sign of deeper instability? Is he fit to lead? Is he fit to sit in cabinet? Is he fit to manage national portfolios when he can't manage his own credit card? The truth is, we don't know. Not yet, but you, the people, must decide. So before you leave the fire tonight, tell me in the comments, should a leader with a 150k default be trusted with your tax money, or is John Steenhuisen just another politician burning through our trust the same way he burns through credit limits? Jeremiah leans forward. Like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because this story isn't over. Not by a long shot. And trust me, I'll be right here at the fire when the next chapter begins.